our giggle guides on the Leicester Comedy Festival on our website, bbc.co.uk/Radio Leicester. Now, next this morning, thousands of British Sikhs are expected to gather in Downing Street today to put pressure on David Cameron to hold an independent public inquiry into Britain's role in the 1984 Amritsar attack. Earlier this month, an inquiry concluded that Britain's involvement had only a limited impact on the attack on the Golden Temple 30 years ago, which saw hundreds of Sikhs killed. The Prime Minister was given a deadline of today to agree to an urgent meeting with representatives from the Sikh Federation or face a mass protest, as well as political consequences at the next election. And around 60 members of Leicester's Sikh community will be joining the protest, which gets underway at noon. Well, Raj Mann is the chair of the Leicestershire Sikh Alliance. He joins me on the line now. Good morning to you, Raj.
Good morning, Jonathan.
What are the group heading over to London actually hoping to achieve this afternoon?
Is to show the strength of feeling for the events around 1984 and the British involvement as well. And we're very disappointed that the report so far by Jeremy Hayward has only focused on 6 months from 1983 December to June 84, which was Operation Bluestar, the deadly attack which wiped out thousands of innocent worshippers to target a handful of activists in 84. So this inquiry needs to be broader in scope. It needs to look at the events after 84, because of course there was the Sikh genocide at the hands of the Indian government, and it needs to look at potential involvement on Operations Woodrose, Black Thunders 1 and 2, which were executed by the Indian authorities against the Sikhs on a genocidal basis. And that genocide is being discussed around April by United Nations and Sikhs for Justice. We did a 1 million signature petition for that to be discussed. All this is coming out 30 years later because there was a media blackout at the time. And thankfully, this government, with a 30-year rule, these letters came to light. In fact, it was a bit of an accident. Jeremy Hayward has said that it should have been kept quiet for a few more years. I think another 20 years they're allowed as well. But inadvertently, and for us, we want the truth out here. These letters have come to light. There has been a report so far, but there needs to be a public inquiry. It needs to be independent, judge-led. In this day and age where there's so much cynicism about politicians and about, dodgy dossiers and things like that, it is very important to get the public trust to be independent and for it to illuminate the full facts, not just a narrow time frame.
I mean, understandably, Raj, the Sikh community are angry and upset, and anyone who has a connection to this whole event is furious at the moment because they don't believe that they're getting the full information. But how much of a priority should this be for David Cameron at the moment, do you think? Because do you think it has wider appeal?
Oh, well, it's time for politicians to man up here. I mean, where are the great statesmen gone? Since Churchill, where are the statesmen gone? Thatcher was arguably a very controversial statesperson, but it's time for Cameron to define Britishness, to take the moral high ground and look at human rights and the right thing to do. If he wants to bring back trust into politicians, especially with the Sikh community, but also with the wider community. I mean, the Golden Temple is the 6th most visited place on the planet. It's iconic. It's the sort of the most holiest shrine of the Sikhs, and it has got wider interest. We've had non-Sikhs calling us and supporting us on this issue as well, and he needs to look at this as being totemic of his leadership.
What's the risk that he takes if he doesn't listen to you?
Well, then history will not be very kind to him. He's got an opportunity here to lead, to look at the full facts and to make a full disclosure. And if he doesn't do that, there will be a chapter in history, the same as, Tony Blair. I mean, Tony Blair did some very good things in Bosnia. He helped out, but it was, overshadowed by what he did in Iraq. And, all politicians risk the same thing. History, hindsight, will look at them and say they helped in a cover-up of a genocide in cahoots with the Indian government of the time. And Thatcher, what she's done with Pinochet, when she labelled Nelson Mandela as a terrorist, all these things now overshadow some of the great economic reforms she made.
You're heading off to Downing Street a little bit later on. I mean, is there any sort of sniff that the PM will be there? Is he going to meet you? What will it be? Do you think? Have you got any idea?
No, it's probably unlikely. We take the point that there is a flood going on, and Sikh charities, Midlands Civil Society and Khalsa Aid. I mean, these are effectively third world charities. We normally go out to disaster zones. We are helping in that, and we understand that there is a priority for the Prime Minister to deal with the floods. However, the government is a big institution, Whitehall, that he can delegate and start a dialogue. He can delegate his his cabinet ministers and civil servants. And all we want to look is the terms of reference, the scope of the inquiry. It's a very simple, straightforward initial discussion, and he should have the gumption to do that, and to do that as a matter of urgency. You have to remember that like you said, the feeling is very strong here. These events are still an open wound, and he can start putting the balm on those open wounds.
All right, good to talk to you this morning. Thank you very much, Raj Mann there, the chair of the Leicester Sikh Alliance. It's 7:45. The news